Hello friends, Uncle Marv here, and we're back with another episode of the IT Business Podcast, recording from Orlando, Florida, where we are at Zero Trust World. And I went over and grabbed a couple of degenerates because they're here, and I said, let me get them on. I've already recorded Don Sizer. Mr. Tim is hiding from me. So I found JP and Martin, and we're going to hang out. And let me ask, guys, how are you enjoying the conference so far?
I'll take that one. Yeah, honestly, it's been good. I enjoy the mix of people that are here. It's not just focused directly on MSPs. I've enjoyed meeting some of the industry leaders in their own companies and where they're going, and the questions that they have are honestly great questions. I know some sports teams have been up, their IT, the hotel's IT department has been here, and their director, and really enjoying learning some of the things they learn and knowing that they need to implement some things that they need to implement. So it's been really good. That's the part I enjoy, is that everybody's learning something new.
Did you ask them about their Wi-Fi?
I did. Some folks got a little caught up on the fact that they couldn't scan their ticket to get out of the hotel parking lot very well because it was raining. But, I mean, there's all kinds of ideas flying around here.
There is. I'm surprised. I drove, but I valeted, so I haven't checked my car since I got here.
Gotcha.
Nice. How about you? How'd you enjoy it?
I kind of echo JP. It's really fun to see the diversity, because the MSP bubble can be kind of dense sometimes. We do things a certain way, and it's kind of fun to get perspectives from those enterprise reps that are IT professionals that are coming in and kind of sharing what their challenges are and what they're experiencing. Right. It's been a lovely eye-opening experience.
Now, you guys have a booth over there, so is a lot of the feedback you're getting from people coming to the booth?
Go ahead.
We've had a lot of traffic at the booth, and it's been pretty big. We've had vendors come, we've had MSPs come, we've had individual IT professionals coming over, and that's where I'm getting almost all my talking done, because I just haven't had a chance to leave the booth, because we seem to always have traffic there. It's been a really good event for that, because I think what we bring to the table, and the fact that we are a community that is just specifically designed to raise the bar for IT. It leaves for a lot of avenues for open conversation, and I think that's why one of the reasons we've been having so much success over there.
The ability for us to all have one place, whether you're the director for some sports team or the hotel or other MSPs, big, small, other vendors, besides even ThreatLocker, Enable and a lot of those. To be able to have a place that you can come to, share ideas, talk to, extend the conversations with a group of people in a brain trust that is just beyond anything else. You've got a lot of probably going to get myself in trouble here, but a lot of vendors have driven their communities through Discord and things of that nature, but they are really focused in on a lot of that stuff. They try to expand out of that, but I mean, they're led and they've got KPIs that they have to meet, but we're not. We are born and bred by the technology community in general, not just MSPs. So we've had a lot of traffic over there and a lot of good conversations, and people going, yeah, I'm joining right now and getting on. I'll be talking and sharing some of the things I had and getting some ideas and
good, and
some challenging thoughts as well. So that's been really, really good.
All right. So you mentioned Discord. Isn't that where the Degenerates started?
No, not exactly. We quickly needed to find a place to call home. No, we more or less started off with a bunch of us we would come to these events specifically to be able to meet up. It's video conferencing and some of that stuff is fine, but there's nothing like being able to be in each other's presence and just feel the emotions, the facial expressions, the body languages, the unspoken communication that is so valuable that you don't necessarily get in the visual conversations that go on digitally. And so we started off doing shenanigans because we were all a little bit crazy,
Yeah.
more or less degenerates.
I avoided you back then.
You did, and we sucked you in, though, I think, to some degree. But we also, this was a way for us to kind of give back and get people to let their guard down, to not be afraid to come up and say, hey, I like your costume, I like what you're doing, and go, well, tell me a little bit about it.
Yep.
We're not afraid to kind of pull that out of people, and they needed something like that. So then we decided, there's tens and hundreds, and all of a sudden we're like, we got to find a place for everybody to go. So we chose Discord. So if you go to our website, techdegenerates.com, and you'll be able to join our Discord and be a part of the whole community.
All right. What's been the biggest topic before ThreatLocker? Because I'll be honest, every time I open up my app, I'm so far behind that I'm like, I'm not catching up. So
you do need to turn the notification off, and you have to be intentional sometimes to go in there.
Yeah.
But the beauty behind using Discord is you can hit that bottom right button to scroll to the bottom, and really you start to read the last 3 or 4 comments, and you're caught up at that particular moment, and the rest of it that happened, that's okay. It's not that you didn't miss anything. It's if you need to go search for a specific thing. Hey, what's the topic on AI now? Then it'll spit back and tell you and take you to those conversations or those channels. But before ThreatLocker, I would say that it had more to do with people's stacks, what vendors they're using, what are they charging, how did they go from hourly and make that transition into the per user per month the stuff. And I mean, again, we're talking several years ago that we kind of were all talking about these things, and honestly the topics are so general that it was an extension of being around the bar and sharing the ideas and what you're doing, what am I doing, am I doing this right, is there a better way to do this?
Right.
And that's really where that all came from. We just wanted an additional place to do that at and carry on the conversation. Go ahead.
And on the security side, just a lot of the chatter's there's been quite a few 0 days on firewalls, so people talking how they're dealing with that, how we're working on large scale fixes and things like that. So those have been popping a lot lately, and that's been a big conversational topic in the cybersecurity channel on Discord.
all right.
Yeah, you get the Mark Menzies and the Matt Lees that jump in and say, hey, have you guys heard about this? And over half of us are like, no, but we're going to now, And
Or Cody chimes in, and he something that I had no clue was even a thing, but all of a sudden now it's on my, right in front of my radar, because I know the danger, because if Cody puts it out there, it's going to be something that to be working on.
Yeah. So it seems that this is normally that time of year where people are looking at their stack, looking at their billing and stuff. I've had probably 3 or 4 separate sidebar conversations with people on, how do I change it? How do I force my clients? And it always comes back to just do it. I mean, it's one of those things where if you look at every other industry, when you're electric company, when you're plumber, when they don't tell you that here's the bill, here's how we're charging, take it or leave it. I don't understand why we are so against that.
I think it has more to do with I don't know that it's fair to call it a fear, but I think it's it's the unknown. I'm not sure I need to walk through that path. I'm doing okay. I'm all right. But I'm not going to grow. But oh gosh, I'm worried that my big client that's running 50-60% of my total gross revenue, they may be leaving, and then I'm in big trouble.
That makes sense.
And so when they don't want to upset that natural balance that they feel is the right thing to do, they don't. I generally, when I get a chance to talk to some of the younger or less mature, operationally mature MSPs, they don't know all of the things that they probably should about their business. They know the high level stuff. They're entrepreneurs, so they got great ideas and everything, but the execution side of that, from the knowledge and the data, is what lacks 90% of the time that I have those conversations with them. And I think that's what's fearful for them to go, hey, I need to raise my prices this year. Well, you probably didn't even know that you needed to raise your prices. At least you didn't have the raw data in front of you to go, yeah, I'm losing money, until
Right.
Your significant other or your kids go, hey, I need a little extra money, and you look in your wallet and you go, crap, I only got a $1 bill here. Something's not happening right.
Yeah.
I think another part of that is a lot of MSPs don't know that their clients are seeing the value And unless you're being proactive about doing QBRs and actually illustrating to what you're bringing to the table and how you're saving the money here or saving the productivity here, or illustrating the amount of work that goes into it, if the client doesn't know the value, then that's probably going to be a very scary conversation.
Right.
Well, and the ones that, we don't go to Dell and say, hey Dell, I want to know every microprocessor, I want to know every component that's inside of this laptop, and no, I don't want you to change. I don't want you to change that one. I know it's only a couple pennies more to get a better one, or now you're going to put we buy the laptop.
Right.
We don't get to the nitty-gritty.
Or we find the one that matches what we want.
Yes. And we review even hardware. We as an industry, we review hardware.
Yep.
If Lenovo's doing a better job or HP's doing a better job at some point, we move it.
Yep.
So.
And we got to allow our customers to do the same, and to some degree. If we're not a fit, we're not a fit. But I get your point where if a customer's, your big nut,
Yes.
you want to keep that as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And I did have one a few years ago where, of course, they would price shop me every so often, and every time they would come back, they would be like, well, they wanted to charge us per computer, per user, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, we don't want to see that. And I'm like, well, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But the way they have their bills, they don't see it like that. So it's kind of interesting, but it is what it is. Yeah. Do you find that some people are afraid because... Okay, I just lost my thought because I was distracted by that. What's going on down there? We'll come back to it.
Sure.
What else is popping?
Well, from the going back to specifically the stack question, I think it's very important that you review it. I don't think you need to review it all the time. And a lot of entrepreneurs and MSP owners, they see these and they listen to these sales pitches and these shiny spoons. They go, oh, we want to do this. That's fine. That's okay. You got to do that. But you should, if you have a written out process that says, hey, I'm going to review this EDR or this sales or this marketing tool or this contract lawyer or whatever the case may be, I'm going to do that very intentionally every 18 to 24 months, then it's kind of a relief off of your shoulders that you don't have to worry about it. It's easier to go to these events and have the conversation and say, look, here's the specific time I want you to call me back. You don't call. I am very interested, but I've made a commitment to my team and to my family and the mouths that I'm feeding, because we're all taking the risk to say, hey, I'm going to do this in 6 months, or my review for this particular product is coming up in a year. Please call me back. I don't want to have to remember, so I'm giving you permission to call me in 12 months and hound me until I make time for you.
Right.
And they like that. They appreciate it.
And to echo on that, like especially even in the compliant, if you're in a heavily compliant framework, you may have to do reviews more frequently because things change frequently.
Right.
But having that cadence also prevents the chasing of shinies. I mean, it's really easy to see a new product that's amazing and you want to jump into it and chase the shiny. And I think most of us as techies are prone to that new technology that looks really cool, but chasing shinies can also, jump you into an early on component or area of a company that they're not quite baked yet. They might not be quite prepared to go to market, but they have a great concept, right? And so having that kind of cadence, forces you to kind of make sure that you're doing your due diligence, but you're also not grabbing onto a shiny and throwing that into the mix in the middle of, your normal process flow.
Right.
Marvin, can I jump in for something
Sure.
real quick? I'm going to sidetrack. This is my ADHD kicking in.
Okay.
But what he just did is the reason why I think it's great to have these podcasts with a couple of people all the time, is because I heard your question and consumed it one way.
And he heard it.
a different
Yeah.
way. And you got two answers. Hopefully, one was better than the other, obviously. But being able to have and listen to that kind of thing is another reason why I think that people only pick 1 or 2 events to go to a year. I really think they should be doing at least 1 a quarter, because you may hear the exact same sales pitch or the topic being talked about, but you may not consume it the right way every time, and the next person that you go hear it from, you're going to hear something and go, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah, and a lot of it is your own mindset. What state of mind are you in when you hear that? Because you might be focused on an area of your business that doesn't relate to what they're talking about. And then the next time you hear them, okay, I've already dealt with that other issue now. I'm ready to hear you. I was going to ask you a question about giving the vendors a guideline as to when to call and that sort of stuff. Do you go back and communicate with your team? Okay, this is what I've told the vendors, and do they know when the time frame is that you are willing to talk stack, or do they know which vendors you're willing to talk to now as opposed to later?
So I feel like there's two responses I need to give that. One has more to do with the Tech Degenerates. One has more to do with the F1 Information Technologies, my MSP.
Okay.
And so one of them is, yes, I go back to the team and I say, hey, this is some of the things that I took away from this, and I kind of gauge an event success to me taking my time away and going to is if I can ask at least two really good questions of someone else, or someone asks me two questions that made me go, okay, that was a good question. If I get two of those in an event, it was well worth it because it gets my mind to flowing and all that. So I tell my team, hey, I've talked to, I don't know if we're okay to
we can.
names,
Yeah.
okay, Monjour or B-VoIP or somebody and say, hey, this is why I like them. I think I would like for you guys to go through a demo. I know we're not reviewing this until this particular month or this year. Is it okay to have a demo now? I'm really encouraged to do that. I kind of maybe made a promise that we would at least look at a demo.
Right.
Whatever. I let them all know. My leadership team specifically. On the other part of kind of where I heard, and I think an opportunity here is that a lot of times when we're talking to these vendors, whether it's any of us, MSP owners, or if you're in the technology world and all, sometimes they're not delivering their message quite the way that we may need to have it consumed. And so part of the Tech Degenerates, what we want to lift, when we say we want to lift everybody up, we want to lift our clients up. So that's why I love Zero Trust Wars, because you're getting some of your clients to come to these things as well, right? That's why I like the MSP world, so ourselves and everything, and then our teams in there, but our vendors as well. It takes all of us in this industry to lift each other up. So when I hear certain things, let's say for I don't know, compliance group or somebody, and I'm like, okay, that probably wasn't the best thing. If I don't know the owner or the CEO or the tech from a Tech Degenerate standpoint, then we may go to them if they're especially a brand new vendor and go, hey, we're here to help you too. We would love to kind of review how your marketing strategy is and give you some pointers here and there, and things of that nature as well, because they may not get that. They may just get the walk away.
Well,
so
let me tell you why I asked that. So I'm building a little MSP/vendor etiquette series because I'm in one of those positions where I hear from a lot of MSPs that complain about the vendor callbacks, and my gatekeeper at my office has to hear a lot of times, yeah, Marvin stopped at the booth and he was really interested, and she's like, I don't think
Was Marvin at that event?
because I'll give her, here's 2 or 3 people that I talk to that, yes, if they call, put them through. Everybody else, they're gonna have to wait. So that's one part of it, but then the vendor side, where they get frustrated, some of them with me, because I'll just go grab swag and walk away. But, they may feel like they were given the green light, but when they call, they're getting, stopped. And they're like, wait a minute, you told us. But also, whoever's at the event may not be the person that's calling. And you're right, stuff gets lost in translation. But that whole MSP vendor relationship thing, we got to figure that out.
Yeah. And again, it's the way that the MSP should be reacting. Most people know I've got an extreme faith, so I live by one of those golden rules: is treat people the way you want to be treated, not necessarily the way that you are treated. So it is that whole opportunity that if they're making that big of an effort and they're not accepting my limitations, my barriers that I'm putting in front of them, then it's pretty much, hey, you're gonna get in front of the stopgap at there. But they need to know that, and I'm not afraid to tell them, And I think, but at the same time, I've got to make time for them because they're not going to get better. We're not going to get better for the knowledge that they may be bringing that we don't know.
Right.
We just don't know it, and I think that's where wisdom comes in more than anything. It's like, okay, we were once small. We took and had lots of calls and door knocking and sales and everything. We got through it, but it was those ones that we remember that called us back, whether they used us or not, but they at least had a conversation with it, that I almost always learned something on how to be better the next time I was going after a new client. So that's my input to that.
All right, there's your piece of the Church of JP. All right, go ahead.
No, I when it comes to vendor, I'm not scared to be blunt and say, hey, we're not entertaining anything right now. If it's a product that I could see some potential in, I'll give them a time frame. Say, put me in your CRM 3 months from now, ping me, and we'll revisit if we're interested in going on. But I'm also not scared to, if somebody's being overly persistent and doesn't want to take no for an answer, to be overly firm as well, to say, hey guys, I appreciate your interest, but we just would need to take it off your list, please.
Right.
And so you got to put boundaries up, or else then you're never gonna get stopped.
Marvin, I think what you're trying to do there is really brilliant, because just as I was saying earlier, when we started understanding our own data, our own numbers and everything, it was so much easier to go to a client and say, hey, we're $220 per user per month, and when they don't want it, it's a lot easier for me to sit there and go, okay, I'm not gonna put any more effort into that with them when I know that's not going to work.
Right.
If we had that etiquette list in the way that we're both supposed to have it, the vendor and the MSP, if you're creating that, dude, I think more people should get behind you on that, seriously.
I didn't say I was creating anything.
Come on.
I just said I'm looking into it.
I'm trying to help lead you in that direction.
I know you are.
Come on.
I'm going to ask people about what they think.
That's a lot of work. You guys have been building the Degenerates for, 3 years now?
And we do have some of that etiquette, to be honest with you. I just didn't want to step on your toes if you're not building it.
You're stepping on my toes.
Let's partner up. Let's get some etiquette out there, man.
Partner up.
Bum, bum, bum.
Cowboy up. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, you're leading me down a path I'm not sure I want to go down, but what other initiatives are going on over there at the Degenerates?
Do you want to share any of them in particular?
Well, let me ask this first. Are you guys allowed to say that?
I will say right now we're focusing on building the community, and honestly, because we have vendor sponsorships now, and we're trying to get that solidified and get it canonized. And then we've had talks of some moves, but I think announcing them right now might be a bit premature.
It would be premature.
Okay.
I would say that the building the community is instrumental in the next steps that we're trying to take. So the more people that we can get to buy in and be on board with what we're trying to do, and the honesty at which we're trying to do this, I think is crucial to the next steps that we're going to be taking, and that ability to be able to lift up the entire technology industry, not just segregated into the vendors, the MSPs, the clients, the even getting more granular. Oh, we're only going to lift up the security portion because that's what's going to make everybody the most money, type of thing. But as a whole, and be holistic about it, the more that we get on board and start sharing the ideas that we're doing and getting a common place that we can all come together, that will drive us into the next phase of what we're doing.
All right, let me ask this. Without naming names, I assume that there are...
Sizer. Sorry.
She can't help me. I assume that there's obviously a list of vendors that are easy to work with, that understand what you're trying to do, are behind it, and then there are those vendors that might say they are, but then don't really follow through, and then there are the ones that are like, yeah, not interested. What's a percentage of what you guys are running up against in terms of vendors that are, yeah, we're all in, or those that are not?
I don't even know that you could quantify it with a percentage, to be honest with you. I think that it's really, we've had some vendors that didn't quite understand it, and I mean, again, it's community. That's the best way that we know how to describe it right now ourselves. Or just the continuation of event after event after event, all in one place, type of a thing. Or the online bar, where we all stand around and give away our secrets and our secret sauce. the technology community is so unique. My wife's a pharmacist, and I've gone to some of their events, and it's not the same. I've gone to a lot of professional events, and they're just, you get into a bunch of rooms with CPAs, and it's a little bit cutthroat sometimes. Same with lawyers, and so I've been to some of these. Our industry is honestly cautiously loving of one another, honestly. And so I don't know that it would even be fair to sit there and say that there's a percentage that buys into it or doesn't buy into it. I think it's more of they're cautious on to how much they want to buy in, because I think everyone buys into it. I don't know that I've talked to anybody that doesn't, at the ground level, the fundamental level of, hey, you want me to help, or you want to help me, or we're going to help a vendor together. It's all about helping and giving back. We all want to do it, together. We want to do it in uplifting, and we're going to do it one way or another. We're going to force everybody into it.
I think that I'm not going to say the most negative, but the least positive reaction I've gotten has been one of confusion, because they're trying to figure out how we're making money, and it goes back to that's not.
It's always about
that's
the
not
money.
The goal, but that's not the goal of this organization. Right. This has been a passion project for the founders since we started it. I mean, we were truly motivated by raising the bar, having conversations that aren't being had at events, making sure we're filling in those gaps and giving people resources and voices that they may not have if they can't attend the events regularly, right. Things like that. So that's I would say probably the least positive reaction I've got, because they're in their head trying to work out the logistics of it, and it don't make sense because.
Well, I think that's probably where I was trying to go more, because as I talk to more and more organizations, from the outside looking in, whether it's, ASCII's on the banner behind you, but, ASCII's been around, the GTIA, formerly known as CompTIA, all of the vendors are trying to build their own community, and then you've got the Degenerates, you've got the MSPAA, all these groups are trying to do this, and I always feel like, okay, everybody's fighting each other to do the same thing. I want to know, can't we just, work together a little more?
I don't see why we can't. The vendors-led communities are very specific in that they're trying to allow for a place for the MSP and the IT community in general to come to get answers primarily around their
right. They're partner driven.
So those communities are focused, and that's great. That's fine. I think it's needed, absolutely. But to be able to have that ability to come in and go to a community like at these events, and I can sit down at any table, and I'm not even sitting around necessarily my peers / competitors. I'm sitting around a group of vendors and a group of true customers of all of the IT community, and they're consuming and they're listening. They're asking questions differently than we are. Yeah. So the ability to have some of these other ones that you're talking about have that same effect as what we're trying to do with the Tech Degenerates, I don't see it. This is why we decided to form the Tech Degenerates. Go ahead.
Well, and we're happy to, the more communities, the better. The more we can help, that people are getting together and sharing ideas, and I guess that one of our goals was to just remove any barriers to entry to our community. So it's free to play. Just come in and participate. Be honest, be upfront, and so. But if you're a member of us and everybody, all the others, we have no compunction about that. We're more than happy that people are getting the information where they need it. But we're trying to give an arena where it's a completely level playing field as far as access goes. I think that's a big part.
Yeah, and maybe I said what I said wrong, but
no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You can't backtrack.
No, I'm not backtracking. No, but that's just it. You'll understand why I'm not backtracking. I think a better way is back to what I was saying. If you're sitting around a circle of friends and I say to you a story, pass it around, by the time it gets back to you, it's not the same story.
Right.
So I think all of these communities are needed, because that's why I said go to multiple events. You're going to hear the same thing at each one of these things, but someone's going to say it differently that you can consume it better. And so I think that all of them are needed, that they don't necessarily need to be combined into one. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Does that make more sense?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Well, I've seen a ton of I've had to tell people come and say, I don't understand why I should use this vendor. All they do is X, Y, and Z. Well, did you know that? Because I may have a different. did you know they do A, B, C, D, and E as
Right.
well?
Yep.
Like, oh wait, I didn't realize that, or didn't know
Or
that's a
do you know
word,
that
or-
they complement this?
Yes, or this
in their
this
stack?
feeds into this, or yeah.
Right.
So it's the mind, honestly, because when I started doing the conferences, the biggest benefit, yes, exposure to vendors was great. I got a lot of new tool sets that I didn't know were available, just as a stay-at-home MSP. But the collaboration between my peers was by far the biggest one. And honestly, I feel that's kind of what I'm trying to recreate. Is that atmosphere where we're collaborating, we're helping each other out, and just doing that mind share where we're filling each other's gaps. And blinders are called blinders for a reason.
Right.
It's not that you're ignoring it or willfully not doing something. It's because you're not functionally aware that it's there. And somebody's over there telling you that's there. It helps you clear out those blinders and actually provide a more cohesive and comprehensive solution.
All right. So I dragged you guys over here, said we'll talk about whatever comes to mind. So I've driven the conversation. Let me ask you guys, any questions for me? Any thoughts that you want to get out?
Let's let that last question. Let's throw it back on you.
Yeah.
Do you envision is your
No.
entrepreneurial spirit see some sort of a bigger collaboration idea on the communities that are being created?
The short answer is I don't know. In my head, I'm thinking there should be,
Yeah.
but the industry is huge. So I think that there's room for all of us and all of them to work together. I think the problem I see from my perspective is I see a lot of the same vendors trying to do all of them, while there are other vendors doing none of them. And I don't think that's the way it should be.
I agree. I think that when they learn, so we follow EOS in our MSP, very strict about it. And the one thing that I've learned following EOS is that my entrepreneurial, rose-colored glasses, see a squirrel, I'm jumping at the first thing I can and trying to go get it going is balanced by my business partner from a more methodical and thought out and very intentional, yes, we should do that or no, we shouldn't, but he's always trying to figure out how to do it. He's not always trying to figure out how not to do it, which is why he and I work so well. And it's not that we stay in our own lanes, it's just that we bring different ideas and reasons / excuses of why we shouldn't do something, but only after we've tried from an affirmative to make it happen.
Right.
Type of a thing. So I don't know if that even leads you into another question, but I think that it is not necessarily that we're all going to be great together, but I think it's where the different mindsets of those vendors that say, I'm not even going to try this, is because they're looking at their business in a very, very specific way that they just don't see a value or a way that they can measure the value that's going to bring in any sort of way. And this is why I think we all exist, is to try to get and lift everybody up to understanding it at a bigger level.
Yeah.
One of the things, just in general, that I'm excited about is just like the past year and a half that you've seen, because like small vendors have typically approached groups like ours, like just because they know they can get some exposure and maybe very well fully buy into what we're doing. But here, the last year and a half, the bigger vendors out there are starting to realize that community is integral to how the MSP channel works. And so they've been doing a lot more embracing of it and encouraging it, and so it's been fun to see that happen. And I think as long as that continues on without communities being snapped up and things
Right.
like that, I think it's going to be a really good thing for all of us in that respect.
So Kaseya's trying to get into the Degenerates, is that what I'm hearing?
And then you did not hear that.
Haven't approached us. How about you? Have they come talk to you at all?
Yeah, they've talked to me. Yeah, they try to get me to buy more stuff because I was doing a dump, and they were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, so, yeah, I was even down at the mothership a few months ago. I don't think they're happy with me, but I was there. I made it to DattoCon, so
Yeah.
we'll see how it
Just
goes.
one more time, right?
Yeah, one more year, one more. So, all right. Well, guys, thank you very much for coming over,
appreciate you.
hanging out.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We
And,
enjoyed it. Anytime we get to talk to
Next
Marv.
time when I ask, you'll be a little bit more eager to join, right?
Of course. It wasn't nearly as painful as you promised.
All right. So, guys, enjoy the rest of the show. And I think we're getting ready for a break here, so the noise level will pick up. So I'm going to end this before we do. And the camera switched. Look at
I
that.
noticed that.
So-
You got cut out conveniently.
Yep. All right, folks. That's going to do it. We'll see you back here more from Orlando and Zero Trust World. Holla.